All right, welcome everybody. This is a What's Up For You session, and it is April 11th, 2023, and so awesome to see so many new faces. So welcome, glad to have you here. So before we get started with the questions today, I just want to kind of do a brief kind of check-in with everybody. And one of the things that I just want to suggest is that whatever's going on in your worlds and your realities right now, to give yourselves really permission to, ask for what you need, ask for what you want. Really, it's available to you. It really is available. And so I think that this is a time where we're really maybe dismantling in a big way some of the programming that might have been so deep and so buried that it's been maybe unseen or unnoticed for quite some time, lifetimes probably. And so again, being gentle on yourselves, asking for what you need, and assuming that that can be received back to you from all that you are. Yeah, from all that you actually are. So anyway, let's start this party. Where do you want to go, Sharon?
All right, this first question is, how do we help our son have a voice, speak, or able to communicate through spelling?
Well, practical application here. I'm assuming that you already have a spell to communicate or some kind of support system in regards to that. That's the first place to start, obviously. As far as the helping him to spell to communicate, the very fact that you already have the idea or thought that you want to move in that direction with him is a thought or idea that was planted in you by him. So so go down that road, go down that road. It's already something that has been chosen by both of you. So there's not so much what you have to do except take the action steps, to make that happen. So I hope that's helpful.
All right, this question is, I really struggle with the fight part of my daughter's anxiety with her autism diagnosis. I love some perspective.
With the fight or the flight? Fight.
She has fight.
Yeah, okay. So hold on just a second here. Well, first, let's start with some compassion here. Let's start with some compassion for her need to fight and for what it brings up for you as the parent, right? So none of us want to see our children, in fight, flight, or freeze. Yep. And when fight is the warrior energy that kind of comes back out, we just want to acknowledge that that warrior energy also is something that we hold within ourselves, and that warrior energy does not need to be perceived as bad or wrong. Yep. It does want to, however, be felt for what it is. So hold on just a second. Got to shift up here just a minute. She wants to be recognized for the warrior that she actually is. It takes a lot for somebody to show up in this world as differently as a lot of the kids on the spectrum are showing up. And by different, I don't mean broken or wrong. I mean that they hold different information altogether. And what I'm just hearing is she just wants to be acknowledged for the warrior that she actually is. And a lot of that fight is warrior energy. And my sense is that you probably have a little bit of that yourself. So we don't want to make that wrong or bad, that your warrior energy is actually a strength of yours as well. So I would have that conversation with her, whether you feel like she understands every word you're saying or not. Her consciousness surely does. So I would just tell her that when she's angry and frustrated and that kind of energy is coming out, that you recognize the warrior in her and see what happens. Yeah.
All right. This question is wondering how we can integrate our son enough to go out in the community safely or be able to stay with people other than us, for example, go to my daughter's graduation.
Well, let's start at the beginning. I don't know how else to say this other than he doesn't really want to go to the graduation. So, and it's not anything about, let's say it this way. There's a lot of places that he doesn't necessarily want to go out in the world that are important for you to experience out in the world. Yep. So, but one doesn't have to negate the other. He's actually would be perfectly fine staying in while you all are out. And there doesn't have to be guilt or there doesn't have to be guilt or shame around that at all. You can go out, be out, get out, do the things that are really important to you. And he just wants there to be some awareness and some recognition that different things are important to him. His desire for a little bit more solitude or a more inward focusing perspective, you might say, has to do with his soul's journey and what he is accessing and what he actually needs the time and the space to access versus what, any of us might feel is important. So hold on a second. I'm going to look at mine to see if you have seen. Yeah. So he actually, I think whether you are consciously aware of this yet or not, he actually is working on some pretty big projects in other worlds and other realms. I don't know how this is being received, but he's definitely working on some pretty big projects. And from that perspective, he just keeps telling me, I need that inward time. I need that time to be present to that information instead of doing the things that might distract me from that, which, being pulled out into the things that, again, that we as, human beings might really find enjoyable and exciting and interesting. And he's focused somewhere else, doing something else. So I hope that's helpful.
All right. This question is, has a reoccurring issue with left ear. It weeps and I feel strong energies moving there all the time. I know it's related to going through a change. Could you give me any insights, please?
Is this your ear, your left ear?
Yes.
Okay. So hold on just a second. Well, first, really acknowledging that you, in many ways, you already know what's taking place here. I mean, you're already hearing, you might say, the wisdom that is, let's just say it like this, you're already hearing the wisdom that is beyond the weeping ear. Yep. So if we just say it like that, you're already hearing the wisdom that's beyond the weeping ear. And from that perspective, like you said, you know that big change is on the horizon. And there can be all kinds of fear, anxiety, and stress around that, as well as, excitement, exhilaration, and, let's get going here. And we just want to acknowledge, the ear would like you to acknowledge that the weeping, the fear, worry, and concern are just as valid as the excitement and the curiosity and the what's next. Yep. And so it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be either I'm all in or I'm all out. It's like you're absolutely in a transition, absolutely in a transition. And the more that you can honor that transition, and the more that you can honor the aspects of you that come up and say, I like that idea, and the others that come up and say, no, thank you, that's scary, that's unknown. The more you can just be with them, whatever the scenario is that's coming up, the more the ear will clear, and you'll find yourself already in what's next. Yeah. The weeping ear, just let's be as clear as possible. The weeping ear, there is no metaphor. It's like, what parts of you are weeping? What parts of you are in fear, worry, and concern? And there's nothing wrong with being in fear, worry, and concern. We just want to acknowledge that some parts of you are weeping in this transition, and that's okay, because the transition's going to happen anyway. So, yeah.
All right. How do energetically children, adults view AI?
That's as different as the adults or the children are. Different souls have different relationships with all kinds of things, and AI is one of those. I think one of the challenges we get into with anything on this planet is we've been so conditioned to make something black or white, right or wrong. And it doesn't have to be that way. It definitely doesn't have to be that way anymore. Yeah, there's some really beautiful and positive things about artificial intelligence, and there are some very challenging and dark things about artificial intelligence. And again, it's not the thing so much as it is the use of it, how it's used. And so when we talk to those on the spectrum regarding artificial intelligence, let's talk to them about what they know, about what they feel, about what they're aware of. Is that supporting their consciousness? Is that supporting our consciousness around them? Or is it separating us from that? So, yeah, let me see something else. Yeah, just what I'm hearing really strongly is, as much as we can release the black and white of things, the right and wrongness, and put the creative energy back in our own hands, that as creators, we actually get to decide how we will apply or not apply, how we will use or not use anything, quite frankly. And to give that information to the kids on the spectrum and to hear their information about this, I think is, yeah, direction we want to go in. So, yeah. Hope it's helpful.
All right. What do you do when it seems like there are constant battles between your child and you? It seems like the furthest thing from spiritual.
Well, it, it's the closest thing to spiritual, because what's on offer here is an opportunity to go into deeper aspects of ourselves and to feel what has yet to be integrated. Many of you have heard me mention before the book, The Presence Process by Michael Brown. This is highly recommended in these situations, because what we have all been conditioned to is we've been conditioned to notice what the scenario is or the situation is and go into not liking that scenario or that situation. But the real opportunity here is to feel into and be present to some of the aspects of ourselves that have yet to be felt, yet to be met. And so, for example, when we're frustrated, irritated, confused, overwhelmed, in a place of unknown, when we're scared, when we're in fear, all of those energies are energies that are asking us to be met. And what's really beautiful about energetically sensitive children is that not necessarily consciously, but they are so keenly aware of what is repressing or suppressing who we are in truth, that they have a tendency, again, not necessarily on purpose, they have a tendency to really poke us. You know, they have a tendency to really hit those emotional triggers, and they're hitting those emotional triggers for a reason. We want those emotional triggers to be met. Those emotional triggers want to be met. They're just younger aspects of ourselves that never got acknowledged, never got heard, never got valued. And it's truly our opportunity, our gift, to be able to meet those parts of ourselves. And you really will be amazed, because as we meet those parts of ourselves, you'll notice that there will be less need for those trigger points to be hit. Yeah, it's really, what's happening is very purposeful. And quite honestly, I don't know anything more spiritual than being able to meet the different aspects of ourselves that have yet to be met. So everything's set up beautifully for evolution on all levels. So yeah.
All right. Thoughts regarding inner child healing and direct impact on our awesomeism children embodiment.
Yeah, well, it's what we were just talking about. There is no full embodiment, you might say, without a vibrational, let's say it like this. Every time we create a deeper connection with the unintegrated aspects of ourselves, every time we meet those aspects of ourselves, we are creating a vibrational template that tells the children that it is safe to be here, right? And so as each one of our inner children feels safe to be here, and they feel safe to be here because they're being met, they're being loved, they're being held in compassion by us, by the adult us. Every single time that patterning plays out, we are vibrationally demonstrating and showing to the kids that it's okay to be here. It's safe to be here. Yep. Every single time we take one of the triggers that they might, every time we take one of those triggers or those buttons that they might push, just because they're having some of the challenges that they're having, and we actually meet that, we integrate that, that inner child feels safe, comfortable, loved, right? That's a vibrational template that shows energetically sensitive children, it's okay, come on, you can come in a little bit further. So again, that presence process by Michael Brown, I honestly don't know any process that I've experienced anyway thus far. And part of the reason why I love this process is because it's all internal. It's all your own inner work. It's all you staying with the process and letting the process transform or meet those parts of yourself that haven't been met. And I tell people all the time, and you know, if you'll go through the process, you'll know at the end of that 10 weeks just what was on offer. I'm not going to say it's necessarily an easy process, but the only reason it's not easy is because we, at least initially, have this idea in our minds that somehow feeling heavy is bad and feeling light is good. And I think that's one of the detriments that you might say, the kind of more, I'm going to put spiritual in quotes here, but the more spiritual or thought processes have, I think this is where there's been a disservice, because the fact is that there are no bad emotions. They are all energy in motion. And if we fight, flight, or freeze around one of those emotions instead of moving it through, our inner children feel anxious, stressed, overwhelmed. And so the opportunity for when all that comes up, the opportunity is to meet it. Yeah. Yeah. So it has a direct bearing, absolute direct bearing on how energetically sensitive children experience and express in the world. There's a direct correlation between that and how we meet our own inner children. So, yeah.
Okay, this question ties into that. What practices do you suggest for improving our self-care, self-love?
The Presence Process by Michael Brown. Yeah. It's, you know, and the other thing too is that's a process, right? That's a 10-week process. And the other thing that I will say that is a little simpler, a little easier to start with sometimes, is something as simple as, you know, I'm feeling self-awareness. I'm feeling this way. I like to ask myself questions like, how old is the one that feels this way? How old is the one within me that feels this way? So like this morning, you know, I was in, you know, overwhelmed, you know, lots of energy moving through, lots of shifts and lots of changes happening. So I was in overwhelm. So overwhelm's not wrong or bad. And when I asked, you know, how old is the one that's in overwhelm? And then overwhelm moved to anger, frustration, irritation, whatever. When I just asked, how old is the one that's in overwhelm? The first number that came to my mind is 6. So now we're understanding we have a 6-year-old within us that just needs our attention. And if there was a 6-year-old out in front of us and she or he was feeling stress, overwhelm, whatever, we'd want to like pull her close and, you know, support her and hug her and love her and want her to know that, you know, it was okay for her to feel that way. So that kind of self-awareness really does shift things faster than you can imagine. And we forget to ask those questions because we've been conditioned to just try to get away from the discomfort. but the discomfort is really a grace. It's really a grace, because all it's saying is there's a little one inside that needs your support. Yeah, that's really all it means. So yeah, hope that's helpful.
Okay. Is there something called evil eyes, and can people jinx things in our lives, or is it in our hands to create them?
So yes, everything has consciousness. Things like evil eyes, things that are, culturally black magic, those kinds of things. Yes, they absolutely, they actually absolutely have a consciousness. And to the degree that any consciousness is used and added unto, that consciousness becomes a thing, becomes, an energy, you might say. I think the challenge is that a lot of times we give more credit to these quote unquote darker energies. And really, let's understand that all they are is an energy that has been added unto, right? And so we can place our focus on that, and we can move into fear, anxiety, concern about those kinds of things, or we can remove our energy or our focal point from that and place our energy squarely on what it is we are choosing to create. And please understand that every time we withdraw our energy, we withdraw our focus, we are also withdrawing our creative power. So we want to really understand that there's a reason why our attention point is clamored for by, all kinds of things out in the world. That there's a reason why the television is so focused on negative, heavy, dark energy. It's the same reason that, the occult, dark forces, evil eyes, all of that kind of energy, it draws us. And part of the reason why it draws us is because of the energy that has been put into it in the first place. It's designed to draw us, because if it can draw us, then what ends up happening is we've just kind of said, okay, it has more power than we do, right? It has more power to create in our worlds than we do. So the moment, again, we extract ourselves from that energy, place our energy squarely on what it is we choose to create, we've just diminished that collective field of evil eyes, dark energy, whatever it is that you want to call that. But I really want you guys to hear this, because we are all more powerful than we know. We are all more powerful than we have been conditioned to believe. Yep. And so that question, what is it that we are choosing to create? What is it that we are choosing to add our energy to, is a hugely powerful question. Hugely powerful question. Yep. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you're shifting already. That was nice. Yeah, you heard that. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, this question is, I'm finding myself in the same pattern over and over. I recognize it much sooner now and try to meet myself with compassion through it, and wondering if there is a place of it, and should I sit with it, dismantle it, or just allow it to pass through, or all of the above. It is as if the energies are testing me and I am able to pinpoint the feelings that arise and move through. However, the discomfort during it seems to be telling me something different, almost as if I'm not listening to myself. Any insight?
Hold on a second. Quiero que more países y more. Sí, que mai. Miedo que caiga mais. And this is for you specifically. You've dismantled so much of this energy, and I can see very clearly that you are able to be present with it even when it's uncomfortable. And so once you've been present with it because it's uncomfortable, and you've just simply, again, no story, no nothing, it's just, I'm just sitting here in this feeling of being really uncomfortable, and I can be with that. You can clearly be with that feeling. So whatever that is, you're also at this place where instead of trying to figure out what it's trying to say or what it's trying to lead you to or what it means, that piece of it kind of loops you back into an old story, an old dialogue, inner dialogue. So you might consider going from, okay, let's say the feeling is anxiety. Okay, how old is the one that's anxious? Okay, she's 3. Without any story, we're just going to sit with the 3-year-old. Yep, there can be all kinds of reasons why she's anxious at 3, but she's 3, she's little. And so we're going to hug her and love her and have compassion for her. And then we're going to kind of take her by that hand metaphorically, and we're going to say, what would we like to create now? Yep, what is it that we would like to create? So now you have your inner 3-year-old on board for your creation cycle. You've given her the attention that she needs, desires, and then you're inviting her to co-create with you. What's the next step? What do you want to create? What do you want to experience instead of what has been being experienced? So that's kind of the place or the phase that it looks like that you're ready for creation. So
All right, this question is, I want to receive more. How do I shift energy into receiving mode? I often feel like getting stuck in constant output mode and have a harder time to be receiving mode.
oh yes. It's like, I understand that one too. Hold on a second, let me see what's up here. Well, this is what I'm hearing. So how much energy is put into the awareness of what you are giving, and how much focused attention or awareness is being put into what you are receiving? So to me, what you're showing me is that, again, not right or wrong, good or bad, it's just you are a giver by nature, and you have a great capacity to give, and you also are recognizing and realizing that in order to give, you need to receive back from that giving, or you need to receive in other ways. Yep, it feels like there's, let me say it like this, it feels like that there is something that you might be a little bit anxious or fearful to receive, because if you receive it, it will be it might indicate something to your psyche that your psyche is trying to hold on to. So again, how old is the one inside of you that might be a little bit afraid to receive? Yep, how old is she? And let's just get her age, and then let's find out if she's a little bit afraid to receive. In this case, not why is she afraid to receive, but what is she afraid to receive? Has she never received maybe love, compassion, joy, fun, whatever it is? What is she a little bit fearful to receive because she just has never received it before? And then I would just go about your day looking at opening up to receiving that. So you're putting your more attention, more focus on, say you want to receive beauty, say you want to receive joy, say you want to receive abundance. Well, that's already right out in front of you. It's everywhere, right out in front of you. It's just not exactly the way the mental mind has been conditioned to believe it should be. So go ahead and I would play that game today. I would play that game. How old is the one who's a little bit afraid to receive? What is she afraid to receive? And then go about the day seeing where that already exists for you. Where does that already exist? And it's just going to give that little one inside the opportunity to recognize and realize that she can receive by placing her attention on what's already there. Yeah. What's already been received. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's a little bit of rebuttal there. And so usually when there's a little bit of a rebuttal, there is a warrior part of yourself, maybe a teenage part of yourself that, wants it a particular way, and you can have it a particular way. You can have what you're asking to receive. You just want to acknowledge that it's already there first, instead of acknowledging that it's not there, and therefore you have to get to it. Yep, it's already there, Yeah, it's already there. Yeah, okay. I hope that's helpful.
All right. Through my animal communication work, I meet a lot of them who live alongside highly evolved genius star-seeded children. They, the children, are asking telepathically, are seemingly putting out a call for further assistance. So I feel called to use my intuitive abilities to listen to them and advise, but I don't know what on prior experience with no prior experience with children qualifications. I don't know. I'm very objective, blank slate. However, I suppose that can be very helpful. My animal communication came online naturally, and I feel this bridge will be too. After seeing you on Regina's show, Open Minds, I figured I was led to you on purpose. Any insights welcome?
Yeah, I let me say it this way. This is a preference, but I truly hope that we are a humanity that is moving away from credentials, you might say, and into a humanity that is based in heart, based in curiosity, based in the innocence of the children within us, or the capacities of the children within us. So your animal communication, again, is a gift that you came with. It's a gift to be shared. Yeah. And when you get the inclination that you can also expand that communication into other worlds, into other realities, into other experiences for other populations, follow that and trust that, because what you'll notice is the moment that you say yes to what's next for you, the moment that you again apply your same capacity, your same curiosity, that same lovely heart open innocence that you have, then those that require or would benefit from your gifts will naturally and organically start finding you. Yep. And what I will say is, again, we're just like in your animal communication, it's not necessarily about fixing anyone or any animal. It's about understanding, it's about hearing, it's about having compassion for, it's about learning from. Yep. And as we do those things, things change. Things are quote unquote fixed, or things alter, but we're not in connection and communication to fix. We're in connection and communication to understand and receive and grow from and be present to. And to the degree that we are present to animals, children, nature, what our inner children, whatever it is, to the degree that we're actually present to that is the same degree to which something can shift and change in the scenario or the circumstances. Yeah. So, apply all of that beautiful curiosity that you have, that, unique willingness to be with, to be paired with another consciousness, just for the sake of being paired with it, just for the sake of showing up with it. Yep. And then notice what happens because you do. So trust that. That's, your experience, all of our experience in life and what we have come to within our own awareness is, in my world anyway, is much more valuable than any credential that hangs on the wall. And the credential that hangs on the wall can also be an invitation to people that might need or require that. But they don't stay because of the credentials, they stay because of what you can contribute to their experience. And your experience is where that really comes in. So, thanks.
All right. My son seems a little on the lightweight side as of late. Any suggestion on how to best support his body while he's incorporating more light?
Well, first, let's consider there might not be anything to fix. It might not be wrong that he's a little on the light side right now. And especially if we are giving his body information, giving ourselves information, like his body is doing exactly what it's needing to do right now. His body is aligned with his incorporation of more light. Yep. And so as we kind of assume that it's going the right direction instead of the wrong direction, I mean, this is where we really want to pay attention. I mean, this conditioning runs so deep that, that there's something that we have to be on top of all the time in order to make sure that something doesn't go dreadfully wrong or go awry. And so, but if we can start with your body's doing exactly what it needs to be doing in this moment, it's it's really working for him and in alignment with the light that he is embodying. If we start there and we kind of hold that focal point, it's much more likely that if we need to get insight or awareness as to something that needs to be supported at the physical level, that we will get that information from the assumption, from the focal point, that everything is working out beautifully, everything in his body is doing what it's meant to be doing. Right there, you've set that as the barometer, you might say. You've set that as this is just what's happening. And therefore, then anything that comes in after that is in support of that. So let's just check, are we in something's wrong that needs to be fixed? Or are we in an acknowledgement that things are exactly as they should be? Yeah. They're exactly as they should be. And therefore we can invite more of that in. We can invite more of exactly as it should be. Yeah. Yeah. He's doing great. He's really doing great. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we had a challenging few months with my son dysregulation at school. If I am happy or even a couple of days that he is doing really well, then something undesirable happens in school or outside with my son. How do I break the cycle?
What I'm hearing to say to you is that the desirable and the undesirable both are leading in the same direction. When we make the desirable good and the undesirable bad, we separate the process, we separate what actually unifies. And so, and believe me, I understand it's not easy to appreciate the undesirable. You know, we're not a society that appreciates when things go awry or when things aren't working or we don't perceive them as working. But what I'm hearing is you're going to get an amazing shift when you kind of go, okay, he's progressing, things are going well, that feels good. And then the moment that he has that experience of things are not going so well, the moment that we can catch that and just acknowledge that that is also part of his integration process, that is also something that is required, yep, in that moment. And it's not wrong or bad that he dysregulates. Think about it like a sine wave, an ebb and a flow, and the ebb and the flow lead to something else. We just don't want to put all the attention on the dysregulation, right? The dysregulation is also a moment in time. And if we can kind of go, okay, we don't know why, don't know how, but rubbing up against whatever he's rubbing up against, that tension point is required. It's required as part of his integration process. And the more we can value it, the less it will need to be there. Yeah, the less it will need to be present in his experience. And the more you'll get kind of one side of it than the other. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, couple more questions.
Yeah.
Okay. When my son was little, he mentioned that he was one of 12. What does that mean energetically? Seems relevant in the present.
I love him already. Yes, so one of 12 is hold on a second. So think of 12, think of 12 disciples, 12 dimensions on planet Earth, 12, yeah, 12 months of the year, yeah, 12 hours that make up, you know, one half of the day, 12 hours that make up the other half of the day. 12, 12, 12 is the, you might say, the energetic vibrational reality that makes up this existence here. And he's telling you, I'm one of 12. I'm one of the ones that helps to make up reality here. Yeah, yeah. He's like, I'm just not a kid. my soul, my essence, the reality of me is one of 12. You could call that like a council that helps to make up reality here on planet Earth. And my guess is that as one of 12, he's bringing something new. He's infusing something new into that reality. Yeah. Yeah, one of 12. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Came to the right place when we do live events, and when we've everything that's been done here is really has been done with that energetic focus on that 12. Yeah, that energetic focus on that 12. So glad you're here. Yeah.
All right. I worry about when my child ages out of school that he won't have anything to do. Maybe go to day hab. It seems terrible. What does he want or would suit him?
One of the things that the kids have said for so long and is that much of what is coming in for them to, let's say it like this, much that is coming in for them to quote unquote do is not currently known by us in this moment. There is a evolutionary fast tracking that is going on right now that is honestly beyond words. And I totally understand when you have a child that you have been responsible for, especially physically responsible for his physical body. I totally get the fear, worry, and concern that would come with, you know, things like what happens after he doesn't have a place to go at school, or what happens after you're gone, what happens. All of these kinds of questions are on the one hand, they're really valid questions. And on the other hand, I want to invite you to something beyond that question. I want to invite you to a question that is more along the lines of what is possible for him. Yeah, instead of the energy of fear, worry, and concern, which for a vibrationally sensitive child can have a tendency to lock them into fear, worry, and concern. We start asking ourselves new questions. We start asking ourselves things like, what would we like to be created for our children? Yeah, what is it that is possible? What is available in the future that you have no idea will be available for your child? Yep. If we start adding energy, again, it's all about where we place our focus, where we place our attention point. And we can also acknowledge that fear, worry, and concern is going to come up. We can have compassion for the fact that we've all been conditioned into fear, worry, and concern. But the scenario is kind of like I'm in fear, worry, and concern. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm going to have some compassion for that. And the next step is, what would I really like to see available for my child, for all children? What would I like to see available? And start adding your energy. It doesn't mean that you're the one that has to physically create that. It's not about that. It's about where we're adding our energy, where we're placing our focus. And the more that we add our energy to, I would love to see, experiences everywhere where children were valued for what they actually are bringing to us, the evolutionary opportunities that they actually bring to us. I would love to see all kinds of experiences that show up in all kinds of ways that value and validate that, so that our newer populations are not perceived as, just a little kid that needs to be, quote unquote, taught our ways, but a soul and essence that is valued for the contribution that they bring to this reality. That's the kind of world that I want to add my energy to. Yeah. And so you can feel it, even as we just played in that field for just a moment. Now there are potentials and possibilities for your child and for other children, instead of there being just the energy of fear, worry, and concern. Yep. So ask yourself that question. What is it that we want to create? Yep, we're all asking it right now. I can feel it. And as we ask it right now, it comes much more closely into being. Yeah, right there. Right there. Yeah. Find people that will talk to you about possibilities. Yeah. Even if it's just to add your energy to the possibilities. Yeah. And then watch what shifts for your child in whatever way it wants to shift for your child. Yeah. It might not be a concern at that point. Yeah. All right. One more?
I have two.
Okay. Two more.
Yeah, well, we'll just make them quick because I think they dovetail into each other anyway.
Okay, cool.
Okay. That's interesting what you say about hugging and soothing your 6-year-old inner child. For example, it makes me wonder, how do I soothe my child who repels my touch and hugs? Not my inner child, but my actual child. The things that I find soothing, she does not. And then I feel rejected in my way of soothing her.
Yeah.
It is like we trigger each other back and forth.
Yeah. So there is no separation between your inner child and your physical child. And that's not just with autism. That's, our children are custom designed, DNA imprinted, nurture, our nurturing or our parenting added to the mix. Our children are custom designed to trigger us. That's, in many ways, you could say that's their job. So there is no difference between the inner child that feels rejected and the outer child that will not receive your touch. Yep. And so, and there, it's also true that we're not able to shift and change someone else. Yeah. You're at the deepest levels of our consciousness, we are responsible for our own experiences. And I know that to a parent, that sounds like, no, I've got to fix or make this better for my outer child. All I'm going to suggest here is you will make the biggest difference for your outer children by being completely connected to your inner children. So in that scenario, that rejection that naturally and organically arises, I mean, there's not a parent on the planet that doesn't want to hug and love and be warm and fuzzy with their kids. It feels amazing to have that connection. But in this scenario, let's say, and in this scenario, this is coming up because there's that part of you that might have felt abandoned or rejected or traumatized by that kind of energy in some way as a child, that wants your attention. Yep. So maybe I can just say in my own experience, abandonment was really strong for me as a child. And so when I feel that I'm abandoned in whatever scenario shows up in the now moment, I know that I have to go right back to her, the one that feels abandoned, and I've got to soothe her. I've got to support her. I've got to love her, have compassion for her. And as I do, what I notice is something changes. Like, I'll give you an example. My youngest daughter is 25 now, and she's the one to this day, man, she knows how to push every button. She's just great at it. And she's very independent. She's very, some of the characteristics that I appreciate within myself are, the other side of that is she's also so independent that if you want to interact with her, it's really on her terms. Yeah, it's really on her terms. And so I can appreciate that side of me. I can be like that as well. And on the other side, there's this other part of me that feels abandoned or feels like she doesn't want to connect or a little overwhelmed or sad about that. What I notice is, this happened just literally over the last weekend. So what I notice is that as I kind of acknowledge, yes, I'm feeling that abandonment again, and I need to understand, how old is the one that's abandoned? And can I just be with her in that sense of abandonment? Can I just be with her, that little one inside of me, and acknowledge that she's feeling that way, and acknowledge that I won't abandon her. The adult Suzy is not going to abandon the 6-year-old. I'm going to sit with her in that energy of feeling abandoned. And as I sat that way for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then, something else came up. I got up and started going about my day. I then get a text from her that says, hey, sorry, I haven't been all that, available or connected. I've been really busy. This has been happening. So what I was personalizing wasn't even really personal to begin with. So your little girl is just saying, don't abandon me. Yeah. When you feel abandoned, don't abandon her. Yeah. So go right to her. Yeah. There we go. All right.
Okay. My son is nonverbal and noticed he has moments of stubbornness. How can I express to him that all I want is to work with him as a team?
Well, let's first acknowledge that this is what I'm hearing. So if any of us were nonverbal, if any of us were told that we could not share the deepest awarenesses that we hold, if by not being able to share that, we had to also acknowledge that maybe we weren't seen in the light, in the light. If we were not seen in that way, we can imagine that there's going to be frustration, irritation, anger, even resentment. All of that energy would be natural and to the situation. So we first want to acknowledge that energy that is being expressed is not, again, it's not a wrongness. Yeah, it's the natural byproduct of not being able to be fully seen, heard, valued for really the amazing contribution that he has come to be. He has come as, you might say. And so, again, as we give ourselves permission to acknowledge, number one, that stressor, that anxiety, that behavior, you might say, is not a wrongness, it's information. It's a byproduct, you might say. So if we address it as the information that it is, what we end up doing is we end up, again, having some appreciation, some compassion, some understanding. Any of us could imagine, I mean, holy cow, if I have to be absolutely silent and not share, some of the things that I love sharing for, even a couple of days, I mean, I'm gonna start getting a little bit edgy, a little bit something. And so first, let's just acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about that. And then let's go right into that empathy piece. If we were in the same position, how might we feel? And can we share that awareness with him? I can imagine that this can be really challenging. I can imagine that this can be overwhelming. And then ask, like you already are attempting, ask, how can I be of greater support? Yep. How can I be of greater support? And then you ask the question and then you just leave it, because if he's nonverbal, he's not going to necessarily be giving you, although you might be surprised. Sometimes when we meet somebody else with that understanding or that empathy, something does shift and change. There is some way that communication is had. So yeah, all I'm hearing is state what's obvious. Wow, this is really coming up. And if I was in that position, I might feel this way or that way. I'm not sure if that's how you're feeling or not. But that's how I would be experiencing this. This is how I would acknowledge it. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost like just going through that process. You give him permission to feel however he feels. Yeah, without making that wrong or bad, acknowledging that, yes, it is a challenge and that we rub up against all kinds of challenges in our life, and that can be overcome with a little bit of empathy and compassion, right? So you're feeling it for yourself, you're feeling it for him, he's feeling it for himself. Yeah, we're kind of setting a new template here of how he can meet these things as they arise. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
That is it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I so appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the new people. Thanks for checking out the Gaia episode and any other way that you got here. So yeah, lots of love, everybody. And I will see you next month if you're so inclined. Bye.